The following program has been rated GE by the Kenya Film Classification Board. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
Hello viewers, welcome to Chungu cha Jamii. I'm your host, Eunice Mugo. Today we are going to talk about early childhood education. Have you considered that? Are you one of the parents who say a young kid should not take so much effort and stress in regards to school? Or are you in the space where you say it is as much as important as it is to take care of the early childhood education, the same way that you take care of postgraduate students? These are some of the things that we are going to learn today. This and much more. Send in your question, your comments across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. On the show, I'm not alone. I'm joined by two guests. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves so that we can learn this together. Welcome, guests, starting with you, gentlemen.
Thank you. My name is Peter Muraya from Victoria Kids Care, where kids play with a purpose. We focus on early years. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Peter. Madam.
My name is Atlanta Kufuafua. I like to describe myself as a lover of children. I'm currently the child care site supervisor at Victoria Kids Care. Thank you for having us here today.
Welcome so much on set. To start with, I'd say thank you for honoring our invite and to come talk to us and shed us more light in regards to early childhood education. I love the fact that you love children and you're pouring your heart out to make sure that we bring our children in a safe space. So maybe to start with, why early childhood education? Why didn't you settle for something else other than early childhood education? Starting with you, Atlanta.
Early childhood is actually very, very important. In most of our experiences, some of the things we remember most are the things we experienced when we were so small. Mm-hmm. So for me, I have a passion for laying a good foundation for children, and that is why I actually decided that, you know what, I need to be at the very, very lowest level where I can interact with children and help them mold the character, the skills, the gifts, the talents they need to have, even as they go forward. You know, when a foundation is strong, mm-hmm. then the rest of the life is sorted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you so much. Mr. Peter, what's their take on the same?
So early childhood is very critical. Mm-hmm. Like Atlanta has said, it's the foundation, it's the building block of the foundation. So the first 6 years of any child is very critical. That is where they learn everything. That is where they develop everything. So as a parent and as educators, we really need to work on the foundation and of the early years. So mm-hmm. it is a passion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a passion for us.
It being a passion, what is the impact that you want to leave behind these children and also parents? Why should they come on board working together with you so that they make sure that the children's lives are secured? Mr. Peter.
So we work a lot with parents as early years. It's important for young families and young parents to know that they need to form a partnership with educators, with caregivers, with schools, so that we can actually build the foundation. So it's very critical for us to work together. It's very critical for us for the first 6 years to get to mold the child, to put the foundations. So it is very critical.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Atlanta, you've mentioned about your lover of the children, and you wanted to start from the very lowest point to bring up the child. What influences you to that direction, and what have you learned so far so that we can learn also from you?
Okay, if I may go a little bit personal,
yeah, sure.
I'd like to really thank Victoria Kids Care for giving me this opportunity. I didn't study early childhood in the beginning. I did a course called Bachelor of Science in Business and IT. So I worked pretty much for some time as what somebody would call a network engineer. And while I was there, I still had that beat in me. It was in my heart to serve children. Even when I was growing up, I used to say, I want a career that has children, I want a career that has children. But in this country, if you have very nice grades, that's something that is thrown out of the window. You'll always be recommended to do engineering or law or maybe medicine, such courses. So I had to study that, but it wasn't my passion. And so I took a leap of faith back in 2018, and that is when Victoria Kids Care approached me. I was teaching somewhere as a Sunday school teacher, and yeah, they gave me an opportunity, and I have really, really grown. It is actually in my heart to serve children, and I have seen transformation. You know, when you work as a teacher, as opposed to when you are called as a teacher, those two are very different things. Mine comes from the heart. Somebody else will be a person who just serves children because they need to pay rent, they need to maybe buy good clothes with the money they are getting at the end of the month. But for me, even on a Monday when people are grumbling, yeah, it's Monday, I'm going back to work, I really look forward to it because I'll go there, impact the children, pour out my life into them. And the reason why I've brought in the school in the story is because there are so many things in Victoria Kids Care whose environment is just unique. It's not like the standard school you'll see around the country. There are so many things that point to quality, that point to independence, that point to the way even a parent can feel comfortable and have peace of mind. And that's why I'm still there. This is the 6th year. I am there, I'm working there. This is the 6th year. And I can tell it's the passion from my heart as well as this environment that is there that nurtures children genuinely, authentically. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Touching from what Atlanta has said, Mr. Peter, about a teacher who is there just to earn salary and someone who has been called. Now, you've said it is very much important to look forward or to put a strong foundation from 0 to 6 years. Could you take us through what you do from 0 to 6 years now? Because maybe 0 to 1, I'm still, as the mother, playing the better part. Now, before you started the show, you'd mentioned as early as 1 year, you can take care of. So I want to know, what is it that they do in school from as early as 1 year? This is the first school that I'm hearing that they do as early as 1 year. Because to my mind, I think as a mother, we end up going back to work very early, some 3 months, some 6 months. But now this is a school, and you say it's not a normal daycare center. It's very different. Could you take us through the different classes, the different age, and what it is that entails?
All right. So you mentioned something very critical. As a young mother, you end up going back to work early.
Sure.
So that is where actually we come and fill the gap. So when you're going back to work, you need a safe environment where you are comfortable to go and leave your child, yeah, until you come and pick them up. So we focus on development. Yeah? When we talk about children from 1 year to 6 years, we have different milestones which children are supposed to meet. For example, communication. A child who gets to about 2 years is supposed to be talking and supposed to be communicating. We also have social skills. How do they relate with other children? How do they learn how to play with other children? How do they learn how to share? Yeah? When there is a conflict, how are they able to conflict management? So it's more on a child's development. And when you look at a child between 0 to 6 years, we have about 4 or 5 developmental areas. We have language and communication. We have social emotional. We also have physical development. So we focus on those developments. And we look at each age, and we look at what are the milestones that this child is supposed to have gotten at a certain age. More than that, also what is more critical, and it's something when you look at today's age and today's industry, there are certain skills which people, when they are grown, they are missing. For example, you have confidence, you have communication. True. Even at your place of work, how do you relate with your co-workers? Are you able to work together? Are you confident enough to actually talk and give your ideas? So those skills are actually instilled at a very early age.
Thank you so much. Atlanta, from a perspective of also a mother, I believe.
Yes.
We say when you're going back to work at early as 3 months, 6 months, most of the time we don't take our kids to school.
True.
Because we say it's pressure. But now here we are unlearning that right now. So mostly we take our caregivers that we hardly know of, but we trust them with our kids. But again, you also, unless you have a CCTV in the house, you barely know what the caregiver is doing to your child, what energy he or she is impacting to your child. So what are some of the struggles from a parent's perspective do you think that we go through, that we need to unlearn so that we can embrace this other side of agreeing to take our children to school at an early age, and opposed to, from the African perspective, for lack of better words, we say that even taking your child as early as 4 years, it's like you're tearing the child. So someone will tell you, at this age, unachokesha mtoto, because he or she will go through primary, high school, university. Those are way too many years to be in school. So it's like you're narrowing down for not taking the kid to school early. And again, also with, I think, the public school, they don't take children below 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
So in that case also you find that parents have relaxed.
Yes.
Because 4 to 5 years is the standard age of the government.
Yes.
We forget about daycare and the early childhood system as from where you're coming from.
Yes.
So would you take us from a parent perspective to also unlearn and now to a teacher's perspective as well?
Yeah, that's pretty much, it's quite diverse, and I really like the insights that you've brought in. So the first thing that we always engage parents in is, you as a parent, what kind of experiences did you have as a child and you'd not like them repeated in the life of your child? So we need parents to go back to the drawing board, to just examine themselves individually and check, what background do I have that should really not affect my child? Once you do that, the next thing is, never be so desperate for a caregiver. And the only way to do that is to prepare in advance. So we are talking about a parent who knows, probably I'll be having a child and I'll be expected to go back to work. So one of the struggles I'll definitely see in the foreseeable future is a good caregiver. Now, what do most parents do? They start looking for a nanny maybe a week to the time they're reporting back to work, and chances are you might not get a genuine person because you're desperate. So that brings us back to the next thing. What qualities do you want to see in a caregiver? In fact, one of the best qualities is kindness. If you have a kind caregiver, a nanny who's kind, you will just know the words they speak, how they treat you before even you hand them over, you hand a child over to them, and many other things. There is kindness, there's cleanliness, general hygiene, the quality of how they do things, and that same thing applies to the daycare side. So should a parent decide that maybe I can wait for the child to grow a little bit and go to take the child to a daycare, you need to look out for those kind of things. Are those teachers in that daycare kind enough? Because children can suffer trauma. And maybe if a parent, you suffer trauma when you are young, chances are you might not parent very well unless you heal. So it's usually a journey. One of the best things to do is to examine yourself and to examine also the caregiver you want. And as I've said, you can't get a good caregiver if you are rushing and you are desperate and all you are doing is just asking from your circles, oh, so and so, I'm looking for a nanny. And then you don't have time to interview the person. Before you know it, you're bringing a person who, when you check maybe in the cameras you've installed in the home, you will be shocked. You'll be shocked at what is happening in the home. So never get so desperate. Just have a list of the things you want to see in your nanny for peace of mind. Then I know the other struggle that parents usually have is trust. There's something called trust. Sure. Trust is a big foundation for all kinds of relationships. Even right now, we have entrusted some of our things with people whom we are not related with by blood. Mm-hmm. So it's just trust. So this works either way. You need to have a caregiver at home who can be trusted, who can be really, really trusted, to the extent that you can leave 20,000 shillings on top of the table and still find it there. That is somebody who can take care of your child also very well. At school, can you trust the teacher to do their job? Can you trust that caregiver to do their job? Yeah, so trust is very, very important. And maybe I can say, if as a parent, you're struggling with trust, need to call yourself for a closed door meeting and see what it is that affects. You know, it's good to identify the root cause. We are very good at extinguishing fires when they come. We are very reactive. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, just go back into your life and see, where was this trust broken? Because taking care of children is a big responsibility. You can't just assign them to anyone or somebody you don't trust. So just to answer that bit on some of the struggles parents really go through, it's the issue of trust. Who do I trust with my child? Who do I not? And secondly, that bit of just having somebody consistent in the life of a child, which I've just emphasized. Don't be so desperate. Just look out for the good qualities that you can see. So those two for me really sum it up.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Now, to you, from now a man's perspective of a father and also a teacher. From our father, you are the people who hang us on our throats. Where are you taking my child to which school, to which people? Because from the social media, there's some time back we used to see a lot of, should I say, violence with the caregivers, mistreating the children, the kid, and from the CCTV installing, you're like, you should just quit your job immediately. I'd rather you go back home, take care of the children as the mother. Forget about nannies, forget about caregivers, just do it as a mother. You want us to sacrifice to that extent, which I don't fight. Mm-hmm. Now from a man's perspective, for you now to say, I think I should take up this role to now be at the forefront for this early childhood education, what pushed you to there?
So with experience also with interaction with many young families, because we work with families, I would say it's about the trust. And I would say the foundation, the early years, it's very critical for both parents to be there. Not just money-wise, but to be there physically, to be there emotionally, to be there completely. It's very critical. So as a man, it's very critical. Where I take my child, I need to know that I trust you with my child. I need to know what kind of person are you leaving my child with. So I need to be able to trust. We encourage, especially fathers, a lot to be there physically. And we encourage them to be there and work as partnership with the caregiver or with the school. We encourage them. It's not just about paying school fees and not being there present. And we encourage them actually to know what is happening with the children.
Which most fathers don't. For sure. So I'd like to visit when you're having that meeting. Continue on, please.
So we see a very significant change when you have both parents, especially the father figure, when they're actually present. Vis-a-vis when you have a child who maybe the parent is a bit absent, you can actually see a very big difference in that child in terms of development, in terms of emotionally. It's a big, big difference. So it is really encouraged for parents and especially for fathers to be quite present and actually to know everything that is happening in their child's life.
Hello, I hope you're listening. Sijui niongeze volume your side because, well, in most cases from where I'm seated, from the people that I've interacted with, men barely take up that responsibility. And I'm happy that you're encouraging the fathers to step forward, because what better thing else would you do to your child other than be there? Because I've also, through research, the children who both parents, like you've said, who are there present. Like for me, taking myself as an example, my both parents have been there. The great supporting team that I have, even my dad. I count my dad as one of, when I'm stressed, before I even call my mom, I call my dad.
Wow.
So with that, I like go on. For those, there's someone who said, behind every successful man, we say there's a woman behind. But behind every successful woman, 90%, the father is backing the lead. So viewers, I hope you're learning this and much more. Send in your question, your comments across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 244. We'll be back shortly.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back, viewers. This is Chungu cha Jamii. Today we are talking about early childhood education. Just in case you're joining us, send in your question, your comments across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 244. So before we went on a break, we were talking about the importance of and how to encourage fathers to be there for their children from an early age. Because in most cases, fathers say, my duty is to provide. It's the mother's duty to bring up a child, which you forget we should do that together as a team. Now, you mentioned about the confidence that we have to bring out of this child, how to nurture this child to be also emotionally stable, if we'd say, and so forth and so much. So how do you start installing all these from an early age when we say a child doesn't understand anything? Madam.
Quite a good question. Actually, I get excited every time somebody asks such a question. Is a young child able to achieve confidence? How do you do it? They are so small. How do they get it? And I'd like to assure everyone here that babies as young as 6, 9 months, all of them are capable of perceiving what is going on in their environment. So they can be taught literally anything. So one of the things we always encourage families to have in the presence of a child is to establish some basic routines at home, even at school. There are those things that need to be done every day, like things like bathing, things like eating. So it's good to introduce a routine, and a child is able to have confidence in timings because of routines. And that's how we start it. And then the second thing is, children really thrive in environments that are free from chaos. So as much as possible, it is important to observe peace. And I am well aware of some homes, maybe such a thing might not be very possible, but it's good that when we have such knowledge, we do our best. So even at the school where we are, the children are so small. We receive some of them at 1 year, 1.5 years. And what we do is to try to maintain an environment of peace and orderliness around us. When we are talking, we don't shout. When they make a mistake, we don't shout at them. It really kills a child's confidence when they have made a mistake and maybe they didn't know. They are children. Most of them, they usually come as empty slates, and it is we who feed in values into their lives. So a child who's maybe dropped a cup and it has fallen and broken, doesn't deserve to be shouted at. Yeah, you know, maybe in our era we used to have very harsh mothers. Yeah, you break a cup and it was a cup meant for wageni, visitors, and it becomes a whole sermon for the rest of the week. But let us try and rewrite the narrative. Let them know that it is possible to fail and to correct. So they can be told kindly. That's one thing. When they make mistakes, they need to be told in a very kind way, in a soft way, in a peaceful way. So we normally observe, like in the classes that we have, we check for the children's personalities. There are those to whom you say some words and they are crushed. They are really crushed. And there are those who are just tough. Say whatever you want. But we try to maintain a peaceful environment of very good, courteous words. Then we also give children opportunities to stand and present what it is they saw from maybe a weekend, or there's something, a very nice common thing we do at the school. It's called weekend news. And this can be adapted also even at home. At the end of a day, if you've not been maybe present in the child's life during the day, in the evening, make it a habit to always ask the child, how was your day? Some of them don't even have words to describe, but just wait and hear until they learn it in their routine that, mommy is listening to me, daddy is listening to me. It builds their confidence, and you'll find that with time, there's nothing that will ever happen to your child without you knowing. Nothing will be swept under the carpet. It is part of confidence. Yeah, and then lastly, we also encourage children of all walks of life to at least get to a point where they know what they are really good at. And these things are possible below even the age of 4, even before the age of 5. You will know what a child really likes. For example, there are some toys children really get attached to. It gives you a clue. There are some who like cars, some like water. You can know, this one might be a good candidate for swimming. There are some who are very jumpy. You know, they like anything to do with jumping from a point to a point. They are full of energy. Might consider things like gymnastics, taekwondo. Yeah, not to discourage, but I find that sometimes some caregivers and also parents get it wrong. They find it as though this child is just getting out of hand, and yet it is maybe what gift or talent they have. So it's possible to observe a child to see what kind of things do they like.
Let me
and
ask
then
you
build.
this
Yes,
as you
please.
continue, Ron.
Yes.
You said this child that jumps everywhere, is so active. Now, everything that you've mentioned, in my mind, I'm like, tick, 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 tick. So I've ticked like 5 boxes of everything that you've said. Now, narrow it down to one thing specifically, because, well, he won't have, he can have very different talents.
Yes.
But again, we want to measure with one. So where now do we narrow down from 5 to 1?
Yeah, so you have asked a question which many parents always ask us. No, most schools provide an opportunity for a child to be in an extracurricular activity. And you'll always find a parent asking, why doesn't he or she want just one? And mostly it's coming from the perspective of, when I grew up, people used to specialize in only one thing. But why not have also a variety of skills? Yeah, so anyway, if we can narrow down, there is always something that I like to call a parent gift or a parent talent. The biggest one that you can see. Usually it comes out in all children. You'll always see it. And even in some adults, you'll see it. There are some who singing was their thing from long time ago, but because the society has expectations, they don't go to singing. They go to office work, the corporate side. Usually, that thing that a child doesn't struggle doing, that is a gift they have. Something that comes out naturally. You will see some children draw amazing things, and when they describe, they'll give you a visual imagination. Usually, that's like a parent gift. And then there are other things that come along, other skills that can be trained depending on their personality. So usually, you'll see one that really comes out and it's so pronounced.
Wow,
Yeah.
thank you for that. To you, sir, the traumas that we say parents have gone through, and maybe the traumas that we can subject our kids to without knowing that you are subjecting them to the trauma. Because right now I'm in the space where I'm learning that a lot of people have been subjected to trauma in their lives, and they don't know that I was subjected to trauma. So in as much as we want to bring our children in a different way, we also end up subjecting them to the same trauma without knowing, since we have also not learned that we are struggling with the same. Now, how do you come to talk to a parent, both the mother and the father? Per se, say that you've seen, studied, and also the kid giving you the information now that you mentioned that you have weekend news. The child comes and tells you ABCD has been happening in our home. This weekend, next weekend, the other weekend. Then you call the parent, you find maybe so don't care, so something that just raise an alarm. And you're like, now, how do you approach them to safeguard the child so that the child, again, doesn't go back home and be beaten, and the much effort that you've put to build that child in a good environment being shattered? How do you now bring the parents on board and also the child for them to have that relationship that blends in and gels in together with what you're doing?
All right. So one thing which I would mention, which is also critical for parents to know, once you've put your child in a safe environment with caregivers and educators who they trust, they form a relationship. And once they form that relationship, they trust me or you as the caregiver. So definitely, as educators, children are very open with us. And at most of the time, we will know what is happening at home. Again, when the child comes at home, the child trusts you as a parent, you will know exactly everything which is happening at school. So when we build that foundation, and you have the instance that you are talking about where you don't want that foundation to go down, definitely you need to involve the parents. You need to call them. You need to have a sit down, and you talk to them on the importance of the issues which are happening at home. Definitely when you do that, definitely it's confidential. You are not calling them out, but you are showing them the impact which is having on the child. For example, if you are having a child who may be at home, there is a bit of violence, I can definitely tell you with a factor, when that child comes back to school, you will notice a very big difference. For example, that child may be the personality, like we were talking about, it's outgoing, very confident, speaks out, asks questions without fearing, and all of a sudden you notice this child is quiet. Yeah? So definitely you would know there is something which has changed in this child's life. And now from there we're able now to go and see, okay, what is happening at school? Okay, what is happening at home? Now we are able to call the parents. Remember what we said, for you to be able to raise this foundation, put the foundation and raise this capable and confident child, it is actually a partnership of parents and caregivers. So we need to involve parents a lot. We need to involve parents a lot. We need to talk to parents a lot. We need to support parents a lot, young parents, especially first-time parents. Maybe this is the first-time parents. So there are so many informational gaps they do not know. So we need to support them a lot. We need to do trainings, such talks. We need to invite doctors, pediatricians. We need to invite caregivers and so on, so that we can be able to fill the gap and show the parents the importance of the partnership, and also to show them the importance of having a safe environment at school and also at home. So there is a lot of work which goes towards the partnership with parents, talking to them a lot, bringing different experts to talk to them and tell them the importance of different things. There's a lot of partnership which goes towards that.
Maybe to ask and add on the same, from your side as Victoria Care, do you have such things that you do for the parents? And if you do, how do you convey the message out there?
Yes, we do have such things because it's a relationship. So when we work with the parents, you're able to see, okay, they are struggling in a certain area. For example, I'd give an example. Maybe they're struggling in the area of, my child is getting a lot of coughs, colds, every other day coming to school, absent. So what we do, we are able to bring different experts. For example, we're able to invite pediatricians who are able to come on board and just have a conversation the way we are having and talk to the parents and tell them it's a normal journey for a child when they are born up to 6 years. They will get sick a lot, but they are actually building their immunity. And they are able actually to advise the parents what is the kind of diet that you're having. For example, now we see that a lot of children are taking a lot of sugar, a lot of so many things, and it's having an effect, especially on children who are a bit autistic. Yeah? Because again, when you're looking on today's world, you're finding that, especially after COVID, we have so many children who are autistic. We have so many children who are having challenges of milestones, delayed speech, which also can be attributed to how we are living. Yeah? A lot of young parents these days where we are living, we don't even have space for children to play. So when you leave the child at home alone and you have the technology, they are very quick with phone and so on. So it's a lot of partnerships. We do such events for parents. In any area that we see the parents are struggling in, we're able to invite experts in that area, and they're actually able to come on board and have a conversation with the parents.
Wow, that is so interesting. Viewers, I hope you've taken note on that and also embrace the culture of working together with the caregivers. Send in your question, your comments across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. We'll be back shortly.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back, viewers. This is Chungu cha Jamii. Today we are talking about early childhood education. Just in case you're joining us, we've talked about the importance of learning your child, the things he or she is doing, what he's active on, what he's not active on, and how to impact great values like confidence, social skills, and so much more. Send in your question across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. So, before we went on a break, we were talking about traumas. And you've enlightened us more on that. Now, from where I'm seated, I'm so anti bringing children together, simply because most of the daycare centers are associated to be so unhygienic and so unkempt. And I'm one of the parents that you're going to help to unlearn this analogy of a daycare being a hybrid of infections. Because now I'm like, if I take my kid to there, he'll come back with a cold. I take him again, he comes back with another infection. And I'll be in and out of hospital. So to avoid all that, I'd rather have that stranger in the house and then trust my kid. Or find just another different solution altogether. Simply because I don't want to expose him or her to that space. Maybe helping us to unlearn that, and maybe also to help us to tell us what to look out for when you're taking a child to such space. Madam, from a mother's perspective, I know you can feel me.
Yes.
Yes.
It is very important to understand some of the basic things that you need to look out for when you're choosing a daycare. It's just similar to the process of buying something. When you're buying a dress, what maybe do you want to see in your dress and what don't you want? You'll go to some markets, you won't go to others. When you're choosing a car, there are some basics that you look for. Functionality, design, you know, the engine, fuel consumption, all those things. There are some brands you will love, there are some you won't love. It's the same process that a parent goes through. So you'll find that there are some things you won't really want as a parent in a daycare setup. For example, hygiene. Hygiene is really non-negotiable. Unfortunately, there are some places where hygiene has really been neglected and therefore infections are just a common thing. So it is good to just check out what is your bare minimum as a parent. Do you want loving people around your child, a hygienic place, quality in the way even you are received right from the reception area to the classes? Those are some of the things that we need to check out for. But maybe if we go to just a few places and we say, these daycares are not a good thing, and we've not looked at the rest, it forms sort of a statement that generalizes. It's sort of like concluding all dogs are very bad, but we have kind dogs. Or it's sort of like concluding cars are very expensive. I can't even afford one. But probably if we check within your income setup, there is one that you can afford. So it's the same thing with a daycare. There are those preferences that you have. Those are the things you can go around shopping for. And just to make the process easier, we are in a digital age. There is an agency where we are listed with. It's called Find a Daycare. Even you can check on it on Facebook. And I'm sure even you will see there are some quality places you can take your child to. Leave those ones that you see maybe hapo mtaani, the ones that may not please you as such as a parent, but there are very many options. It might take you time to maybe visit and check out the websites, but I assure you not all daycares are bad. Yeah, I'm also assuring every parent who's listening, daycare is a good thing for your child if you take time and look for the right one. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just to maybe get to know now from where you're seated as a caregiver, as a teacher, as a child lover, what are the advantages and disadvantages of your space?
The advantages are quite a lot, especially on the child side, because we mainly focus on the child. So the advantages are many. We talked about the skills that they learn. I was thinking about something in our era when we were young. We were very quiet. You'd have a visitor come at home and you're very quiet even to go and say hi, welcome them. So times have changed. The children who now we are having need to be encouraged to be very confident, need to be encouraged to speak out. And actually when visitors now come, I'm sure your child goes and welcomes them and is very confident to ask them, what is your name? Why have you come to my house?
Wouldn't you think that that's being like kind of rude? Because from where we are coming from, like you mentioned, we never used to talk to visitors. Now when your child comes in the sitting room and, where's your friend here? What's his or her name? You're like, wait, you're embarrassing me. How now do we nurture that from not being embarrassed to seeing that now we are nurturing the confidence and the eloquency of the child?
Definitely now with the new age, the aspect of technology has exposed children so much, and that's why they are confident to do so. So again, with the development and with the foundation that we are building, we definitely need to nurture them the way Atlanta talked about. When they do something wrong, you don't beat them. You come and talk to them. You give them a few minutes. You come talk to them. You tell them, this was not done right, this is what you do right. So it's a lot of nurturing, it's a lot of caring and showing them the right way. And again, now comes to the aspect of being present, because when you're not present, you're not able now to nurture them completely. So we need to nurture them and show them the right things, the right way of doing things, and we need to show them what they did was wrong. And they are able to see and understand. Because again, with the new era and the new technology and so on, they are exposed to so many things. So we need to nurture them slowly and slowly.
On the note of technology, from Victoria, do you embrace technology, or you're anti-technology, or you're just there in between?
So technology is there in children, but then again, I think we need to be very clear, especially for early years. We need to be very careful the kind of technology that you're exposing your child to. Again, for the first 6 years, that is when a child is stimulated, their brain, they're building their brain, so they need a one-on-one interaction. So we don't encourage a lot of technology for children until they're able to get to a level of 4, 5, 6 years and they have completely developed. What happens is, and I'll give you an example, a child who comes and is able to interact with other children, play and learn and so many things, they tend to develop faster than a child who is left at home, probably watching TV for the whole day. So you get to see there is a lot of difference in terms of the milestones that they actually hit. So we don't encourage a lot of technology for young children. But then again, like we've said, technology is there, so we cannot say they will not use technology. So what we do, we encourage parents to limit the time children spend on technology. And more than limiting, they also need to know exactly what are they seeing.
I think I'm scratching because how do you limit one? Because limiting is reducing. And then I don't want to be disturbed. I want to do other things. Actually, in most cases, we introduce children to cartoons, to nursery rhymes. Nowadays we have it thanks to Cocomelon. And so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And I like the way that the technology has brought it to an extent that it's entertaining also for the child, and also it's a learning process, because those are the songs that I hear my young one singing and I'm like, oh, so it's still there. Because if I'm told to do it for him or her, I'm not in that position to. So in most of the cases, we end up giving our children the TV and the gadgets, the phones and the tablets, in the name of learning, because that is what I do. But if you tell me to limit, now I'm wondering, what if I take away the TV and the phone, what will he do? What will he do?
So I'd like to respond to that in many ways, but I'll just summarize them. So that is why the daycare side is very important, and also play group. Yeah, there was a time in the school we used to issue out tablets, and then we started minimizing. And so it comes to us agreeing as the teachers, the caregivers, what games are we going to involve these children in throughout the day? Learning-oriented games and all, just to reduce on screen time. Yeah, so beyond the recommendation of a good daycare or play group side for a child, I'd also like to recommend this. There are quite a number of things that probably we as parents have limited ourselves in, and we are thinking, I've run out of ideas of what my child should do, so let them stay with the screen, tablet, and all that. So there are very many things a child can be involved in without necessarily disturbing a parent, disturbing in quotes. Because I understand maybe a parent has come back home, they are tired, you want to just sleep and rest a little bit, and just to calm down before you come back to interact maybe with your child for the day. Maybe it's in the evening. So it leaves us with the question of what are some of these things that the child can do during the day that are off the screen? And by the way, that is where Mr. Google comes in, and YouTube. There are so many. In foreign countries, in fact, that's how some of them survive. I think in Kenya, we are so big on technology, to the extent that if something happens, it trends automatically on Twitter or social media, everything. So there are very many off-the-screen things that a child can do. And if you're lucky to have a caregiver who's really involved in the child's maybe life, the caregiver can also do that with the child while you are away. We have board games, very many different kinds of board games that can be played 2 by 2 without necessarily the child getting out of the house. Things like Scrabble, things like chess, very many things, and young children can grasp them. They are not very tough. Then we have...
Board games. Draft, chess, and others. A 2-year-old.
Okay, so perhaps I'll clarify. There are many levels of board games. I think I have said a higher one. For the smaller ones, we have actually, they look like toys. They are available if you go to Toy World, Textbook Center. There are some which have a very simple level, kind of, we call them problem-solving skills. Yeah, so they are very simple and brought down to the level of the child, to the extent that probably a child will just do something like a puzzle game, and it will keep them busy. You can focus on big puzzle pieces or small puzzle pieces. And so to just make work easier, we can look at a variety of off-the-screen games that maybe as a parent you can say, for 1 hour this child can watch certain programs on the TV. When the nanny is through with the daily duties like the cleaning and all, they can engage the child in playtime. Before they know it, it is 12, the child will eat. Afterwards, they'll take a nap automatically. After lunch, most children just nap. When they wake up, one more game. Things like just even simple things like fixing toy blocks to make a simple tower. And you just make sure you have many of them, many of them. A child can be busy imagining. You know, they create very many things out of the imagination. A track, you know, they'll tell you this is a cake, this is an ice cream. And that is why also a good caregiver is very important. So just as Mr. Peter said, there is something called boundaries when it comes to screen time. I understand that screens, tablets, TVs, phones are very good. But for a child who is really young, you need to have an in-person supervision of what the child is doing. I think we need to get out of the habit of just giving a phone to a child. These children are very intelligent. They'll go to sites you will never imagine. In fact, if you give a child a phone right now, they'll investigate and look at some apps you never used. So it is good to supervise. It is good to be there until they reach a certain age. And some gadgets have parental control. Even there are softwares that actually you can download free from the internet that limit the sites. There's one called OptiNet. There are so many, limiting the sites that a child can go to. And you can put the same also for every other gadget, the TV, just to make sure that the content is the kind of content you want, the educational one, the one that builds vocabulary. Yes, that's how I can sum it all.
Thank you so much for that insight. But apparently we're running out of time. So I'd like you to give us a parting shot. Starting with you. Let's start with the lady now. Give us a parting shot so that we can finish with the gentleman.
So my parting shot is, children are children for a set time. And when that time passes, all the care that you would have given them, all the quality you would have given them, you might start regretting later. So it's better to really, really invest in the life of a child and make sure that they have a good foundation, especially before they reach 7 years. That's my parting shot.
Wow, thank you for that. To you, sir?
My parting shot would be to all young parents, they need to know that early years is very critical. Like we've talked about, the values and the foundations that you're able to instill with that child for the first 6 years sets everything as they move on. So we need to be very intentional with the kind of foundation and the kind of values that we are actually instilling. It's very intentional, and it will actually help them for later years in life.
Thank you so much for honoring our call and coming. This has been very insightful, interesting, and so much to learn. But I also feel that we've not exhausted it, so I might end up calling you another time to educate us more on that, on the things, especially on the things we need to unlearn. Now we've learned about the things we need to learn and embrace.
Yes.
Now the things we need to unlearn from where we've been brought up from, and so much more. So thank you so much. Viewers, I hope you've learned as much as I have. I hope you've taken notes, things to do, things not to do, things to consider, things not to consider. The kind of energy, the kind of people to be around your child. Be so cautious, be so on the lookout on the things you want to see your child become. Let's continue this conversation across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. Till next time, have a nice time. I'm your host, Eunice Mugo. Goodbye.